We'll do a review in Likkutei Sichos in Chelik Choftes. This is the sichah for Nitzavim and Vayelech. And there's a lengthy discussion in the sichah about Nitzavim and Vayelech being really one parsha and then sometimes split. And the message of Nitzavim and Vayelech seemed to be the opposite. Nitzavim means stand strong, and Vayelech means to go. And the Rebbe points out how in every area of Torah mitzvahs, there needs to be both tenuas of Nitzavim and then Vayeilech. And the fact that some years Nitzavim and Vayelech are together, and sometimes they're separate, it means that the main thing is Nitzavim, and we know that the Shabbos, Nitzavim and Vayelech blesses all the other months. So the fact that the Eibishter blesses the Shabbos Mevorchim where there's no Mevorchim, the Eibishter himself blesses it. That's the idea of Nitzavim. The fact that Yidden use that koyach to bench and bless the other months, that's more Vayeilech. We'll see inside the details. Look inside and we'll go step by step. Aleph. Them Shabbos for Rosh Hashanah, as it pertains to the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, is Yedua the word von alten Rebben, was hat gehört von Magid, the Nomen von dem Baal Shem Tov. There is the known expression, saying of the Alter Rebbe. He actually heard it from the Magid, his teacher, the Magid, and the Magid heard it from the Baal Shem Tov. As der Chodesh Hashvi, that the seventh month, which is the month of Tishrei, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'atzmei mevorchim. Hashem blesses him on his own. Every Shabbos mevorchim, the Shabbos before the new month, we have a special bracha. We do the Birchas HaChodesh. But on the seventh month, before the seventh month, the Shabbos before the seventh month, there is no bracha because HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'atzmei mevorchim. Hashem himself blesses it. The Shabbos mevorchim. Which Shabbos does Hashem bless the next month, the Chodesh Hashvi, the month of Tishrei, when? The Shabbos mevorchim shehu HaShabbos ha'achron the Chodesh Elul, on the Shabbos that blesses, which is the last Shabbos in the month of Elul, which is always the Shabbos mevorchim. That is when the Eibishter blesses. So this Shabbos, while we don't bless the next month, we don't have a Birchas HaChodesh, the Eibishter blesses the Hud. And then, so when the Eibishter blesses the month of Tishrei, with that power that the Eibishter blesses the month of Tishrei, Mevorchim as HaChodashim Yudaleh Pamim Mishon. Then the Yidden go ahead and bless the month of the year, 11 months of the year, the Yidden bless the months. The rest of the year. All the other all those Shabbos Mevorchims. Okay, what is the bracha of the Eibishter? In Vos Basteit B'Chosr Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in them Shabbos Mevorchim. What does it consist of? What is the Eibishter's bracha on the Shabbos Mevorchim? Is the Baal Shem Tov Mamshech. So the Baal Shem Tov concludes, and he says, Kesiv Atem Nitzavim Hayom. That's the bracha. You are standing today. What's the bracha? The standing today. The Hayoim Koi al Rosh Hashanah. Day Hayoim, when it says stand today, today goes Rosh Hashanah. Now Rosh Hashanah is a day of judgment. The bracha is that you're standing today, you're standing strong, that you're going to be the Hayoim Koi Rosh Hashanah. Shu Yom Adin. That's a day of judgment. As the pasuk says, "Vahi Hayoim," pasuk says it was the day, and all of them came to stand. So the pasuk says, "The Targum have a Yemedin Rabbi." The Targum translates what is the day that it's talking about. That the translation of it that it was the Yom Din Rabbi. This is the pasuk in Eyev. What was the day? Hayom was the day of the great judgment. That's Rosh Hashanah. So what's the Eibishter's bracha? The Atem Nitzavim, you are standing strong. Means kayomim va'imdim, that you're standing and you're staying. That means that you are meriting bedin. That's the bracha. That's the atem nitzavim. So the Shabbos that comes before Rosh Hashanah, which is the last Shabbos of the month of Elul, koydin oz parshas atem nitzavim. Then we read the portion of atem nitzavim. This is the Eibishter's blessing. The Eibishter's blessing is Atem Nitzavim, Zoichim Badin, in Rosh Hashanah, in the last Shabbos. Shabbos Baruch. This is the Eibishter's bracha. The Eibishter's bracha is Atem Nitzavim. Now, the Rebbe wants to point to the fact that it's not only this pasuk or this idea of Atem Nitzavim Hayyim. But the Rebbe extends this to the whole parsha of Nitzavim and actually to the whole parsha of Vayeilech together, because this is really all one thing. The Rebbe points to the exact expression. It doesn't say that the bracha is Atem Nitzavim, but the bracha is that you read the portion of Atem Nitzavim. From the diuk haloshin, from the precise language, koydin oz parshas atem, the portion of atem nitzavim, v'zeu berchos shel Kodesh Baruch Hu, that is the Eibishter's blessing. Unit koydin oz atem nitzavim hayom, not just saying that you read atem nitzavim would mean that specific pasuk of atem nitzavim. There's zokt for in the Torah, because himself in the same teaching earlier, the Baal Shem Tov, the Torah says, he starts off by saying that Atem Nitzavim means that you're strong and you are sustained in the judgment Zochim Badin. But then he goes on to say, he's verstanding, but he goes on to say, as koydin oz parshas atem nitzavim. Not, he could have said koydin oz atem nitzavim hayom, just like he said before, that is the bracha. But he says, no, then we read the parshas of nitzavim. The Rebbe learns from the way the expression goes that the parshas nitzavim, it's more than just the pasuk atem nitzavim. It's verstandig, as birchosu shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu is nit nor the drei werter atem nitzavim hayom. It's not just these three words, Atem Nitzavim Hayom, but nor klolus parshas Atem Nitzavim. It's the general portion of Atem Nitzavim that's the ganze Seder, the entire Seder. So, parshas Nitzavim is the precise language because it's the whole parsha which is the blessing. The Rebbe is getting at that it's not only parshas Nitzavim, it's also parshas Vayeilech. And then the Rebbe wants to say, because Vayeilech and Nitzavim are really one parsha. Sometimes it's split. It's not like it's two parshas put together, but it's the opposite. It's one parsha which sometimes is split over 2 weeks. And since we're saying it's the parshas Nitzavim, that includes Vayeilech also. But how come sometimes we read it before or something like this? Is the discussion. Based on what's explained elsewhere, that these two portions of Atem Nitzavim Vayelech, in essence, they're really one Sedra. Nor lip amim is memechalik the ein Sedra l'shtayim. Sometimes you split this one Sedra into 2 different weeks, but it's really one Sedra. So when we say that the Parshas Nitzavim, that would include Vayeilech, because Vayeilech is really in Parshas Nitzavim, but sometimes it's split up. And if you look, the Rebbe says that it's really one Sedra, nor the Pamim is when Machalik the Ein Sedra l'shtayim, but occasionally you split this one Sedra into 2, is Kediuk Loshen Harasag. That's the Rav Sadia Goyen. The precise language he says, Umehen, He's talking about of the 53 parshas of the Torah. Parsha hamitzchalekas l'shtayim. There is a parsha which is split into two. V'nikras v'shtei Shabboses, and it's read over two Shabboses. Im yesh tzorech b'kach, if there is a need for this. V'hi atem nitzavim hanachlekas b'Vayeilech Moshe. If there's a need, sometimes they will split a parsha into 2 weeks, and that's the parsha of atem nitzavim, which gets split by Vayeilech Moshe. You read Nitzavim 1 week, Vayelech the other week. But in essence, you see clearly from the Rasag, from Sadyagon, that it's really one parsha. And this is unlike in other cases, sometimes there are two parshas that get combined. Here we have one parsha that gets split. Not like the other sedris, which we find that they get combined. In essence, they are different sedris. But occasionally they can be combined to take two separate parshas and combine two together. Here it's taking one and splitting it sometimes. So since in essence Vayeilech and Vayelech are one, so it turns out as Vayeilech Moshe geht rein b'chos shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Vayeilech, which is part of Nitzavim, that too is included in the blessing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Vayeilech Moshe. Warum euch das is a tale from Parshas Atem Nitzavim? Because that also is a portion of Atem Nitzavim. So therefore, Vayeilech and the whole parsha of Nitzavim is a blessing. But it's not so simple, because then it's not every year. If Shabbos Baruch, the bracha, that's in Parshas Nitzavim, that's across the board. Parshas Vayeilech is not necessary to dafke have it before. Sometimes it's after. But the idach on the other hand, the fun gufa, the fact itself, even though we're saying that Vayeilech is part of it, but the fact itself was as in Faran Yorn, there are certain years when mentel the seder l'shtein that you split the seder into two. Vayeilech Moshe werd geleint erst noch Rosh Hashanah, and you read Vayeilech Moshe after Rosh Hashanah. Sichah. So, since Vayeilech, which is part of Azinu, of the Tzavim, is read after Rosh Hashanah, and we have to say, even in those years when you read Vayeilech after Rosh Hashanah, felt nit chas v'sholem b'berchos shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Shabbos Baruch Hu Chodesh Tishrei. There's nothing, God forbid, missing in the Eivish's bracha in the Shabbos Baruch Hu Chodesh Tishrei. What are we going to say? Because you're missing part of the bracha because Vayeilech is after Rosh Hashanah. So in Shabbos Baruch Hu we did not have the full bracha. No, we can't say that. So what's going on over here? So we have to say like this: is mochrach zu sagen, as der Iker berchos shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the main blessing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Parshas Atem Nitzavim. That's the portion of Atem Nitzavim. Atzma itself, without Vayeilech, just Nitzavim. Das heißt, the tail from their parsha is Vayeilech Moshe. The portion, the section of the parsha until Vayeilech Moshe. Was Minhag Yisrael, and the way the tradition by Yidden is, we refer to it, Ver Davke dos angerufen Parshas, Atem Nitzavim. That's called the Nitzavim Parsha. The Atem Nitzavim is till Vayeilech Moshe. That's the way it's printed in the Chumash. Und das, was euch Vayeilech Moshe is a tale von Berchos shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The fact Vayeilech Moshe is also here. The Rebbe went before trying to prove to us that Vayeilech Moshe is part of the Parshas Nitzavim, one parsha. And now the Rebbe is saying no, that sometimes we don't have it till after Rosh Hashanah, and it can't be missing. So we have to say that it's a part of the blessing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Is azay inyan shel bracha. It's such a kind of a bracha. Sometimes it can come out actually begili openly after Rosh Hashanah. After Rosh Hashanah, that's when it comes out openly. So you don't see that level of berchos shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu until after. There's a part of berchos shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu which is visible in every year, which is in the Rosh Hashanah, and which is Shabbos Mevorchim before Rosh Hashanah, the Parsha of Nitzavim. Vayelech is also part of that bracha, but it's not as essential because the bracha that Vayeilech brings can come out after Rosh Hashanah. The Rebbe will explain later on that the Atem Nitzavim is the part that the Eibishter blesses. That's the bracha that comes from the Eibishter. That's the Atem Nitzavim. It's always before Rosh Hashanah. That's the Birchos HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Vayeilech is that the koyach that Yidden branch with that power that they bench all the Rosh Chodesh. That's not necessarily for it to take place before Rosh Hashanah, because in actuality you're not going to bless the next month until after Rosh Hashanah. So it's okay if that Vayeilech sometimes is afterwards. But see, the Rebbe is showing that we have the both side. On one hand, it's part of Parshas Nitzavim, so it's part of the bracha. On the other hand, it's not exactly the same because sometimes it's read after Rosh Hashanah, so it's not part of the bracha, as we'll see, as the Rebbe will explain later on. Base. So the Rebbe zog v'yeshleimar habir b'zeh. We can say the explanation. In the Torah Hanal is el Messiah Kinal. In this teaching, he concludes ubekoyach zeh, and with this power from Birchas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with the power that we get from the blessing that Hashem blesses it, Yisrael mevorchim es chadoshim yudal pam b'shana. The Yidden bless the month 11 times every year. We make the Birchas HaChodesh during the year. They take this from the bracha that the Eibishter blesses in the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah. Yesh leimar, as in them is berumas that inyan habracha was is verbunden mit Parshas Vayeilech. In this that we bench the Yidden all year, that's the bracha. Over there it's hinted the bracha which is connected with Vayeilech. So the bracha which is connected with Atem Nitzavim, that's the Eibishter's bracha. But then we're saying that we use that bracha to go ahead and bench the rest of the other months. So that power and that bracha that we get to bless the rest of the months, that's in the Parshas of Vayeilech, and that's why that can be after Rosh Hashanah. The Etzem Inyan for HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'atzmei v'vorchoi, the idea itself that Hashem blesses it, is verbunden be'iker mit Parshas Atem Nitzavim. That's mainly tied to the portion of Atem Nitzavim. V'chaver gilein b'chol shana v'shana in the Shabbos Achrim Chodesh Elul, which is read every year and year, and the last Shabbos of the month of Elul. Und das was Birchas HaKadosh Baruch Hu git rein HaKoyach. And the fact that the blessing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us strength, as Eden sollen kennen der noch mevorich sein, the Chadashim with alle Pam Shana, that the Eden should later on be able to bless the month 11 times a year. Das ist verbunden beiker mit Vayeilech Moshe. That's mainly connected, mainly with Vayeilech Moshe. That's the power to bless the rest of the year. That blessing that the Yidden should bless the other month, that's after, that's Vayeilech. And therefore, it's okay. The far leitman lefami Vayeilech Moshe noch Rosh Hashanah. That's why we read sometimes of different years. We will read Vayeilech Moshe after Rosh Hashanah. Afal pi as oich Vayeilech Moshe is verbunden with the bracha of Shabbos Mevorchim. Even though that Vayeilech Moshe is also tied with the blessing of Shabbos Mevorchim, the Eibishter blesses us so that we could bless Chodesh Tishrei Kanal. And it's okay to have it later about that inyan and that bracha, because this part of the bracha, this aspect of the bracha, as bekoyach zeh Yisrael mevorchim es hachadoshim v'dalef pam b'shana. Now, with that strength, with that force, Yidden bless the month, 11 months and the year, is nit azayfil negeya in the Shabbos lifnei Rosh Hashanah. That is not so important in the Shabbos that precedes Rosh Hashanah, because we're not going to do it until afterwards. Hayoyz der koyach seh. Since this power, this strength to bless, when does it come out openly? Erst in the Shabbos Mevorchim Shel Achar Zeh, it'll only come out in the Shabbos Mevorchim that follow, is the Rebbe can as Gilein Vernamos. Therefore, sometimes it can be read, Oich noch Rosh Hashanah, also after Rosh Hashanah. So, essentially, they're both blessings of Shabbos Mevorchim. But since the first part that the Eibishter bench Atim Nitzavim, that's comes always before Rosh Hashanah. But that's the blessing for Rosh Hashanah. The other part is that the Yidden should have the koyach to bless all the other months. That's not something which is going to be used till the next Shabbos of Baruch the following. Therefore, it's okay to read Vayeilech after in the starting already after Rosh Hashanah. So while we're talking about the two different ideas of Nitzavim is a blessing and Vayeilech and the different parts of the blessings, and sometimes you go to Rosh Hashanah, we have to also now, the Rebbe is going to go into analyzing the meaning of the words themselves of Nitzavim and Vayelech, because they express really the ideas just by the name, because we call the parsha, they express the idea of the parsha. Gimel, Yeder Inyan, Drikt sich ois, every matter expresses itself b'shmoya sheyikru leb'loshen HaKodesh, in the name which they call him in Loshen Kodesh, the Hebrew name. Al derech zeh is moving b'pashtus b'negeya shema sedres nitzavim vayelech. Similarly, it's very simply understood as it pertains to the name of the Seder Nitzavim and Vayelech. Azeyer toichen gitzich harois im zeyere batreffende nemen. That the contents, what they are, expresses itself in their names. What Nitzavim is the name Nitzavim. Vayelech is the name Yelech. The Werte Nitzavim and Vayelech enthalten zwei verschiedene. Nitzavim and Vayelech contain two different, und noch mehr, not only different, hepechdike musogim, opposite concept. Nitzavim and Vayelech. The Teich for Nitzavim is, the translation of Nitzavim is, wie der Mond in der Torah now, as mentioned in the above Torah. Nitzavim means kayomim v'emdim, yet you're standing, you exist, and you stand. Nit an Amida stam, we're not just talking standing, nor an Amida chazok betoik. We're talking about a strong, a fast with force, standing strong. As it's explained, as Nitzavim is meloshen nitzav melech. That the word Nitzavim comes from the language a king stands. King is powerful. He stands strong, firm. Was weist of an Amida b'teikav v'chigodl. That points to a standing with a very great force. B'dugma b'nitzav von hamelech. That's like a king's nitzav. That means nitzavim, not oimdim nitzavim. Vayelech is teichna alecha, as opposed to Vayeilech means to go. Heipech von Amida b'chlal. This is just the opposite from even standing. It's walking. It's not standing. Velachas kam v'kama, and how much more so? It's not even standing. Heipech von Nitzav Amida b'teikav. Vayeilech is the opposite of standing strong, with a firmly, that you're standing in one place. Here you're going. You're not even standing at all. And yet we say still, as Nitzavim and Vayelech, we're saying now, Nitzavim Vayelech is nit nor was mizeh mechaber yachad. You're not only connecting them, you're saying they're really one. The andere sedres hamitzarfes, they're not only like other combined sedres. We're saying that they're one sedre. Notwithstanding, this is Nitzavim, this is Vayelech. And the Rebbe says that really we need both. You need to be strong and you need to go. And the way to go is by being strong. Dalit. The Kudas Habir was the point, the explanation here. Klolas Avodas Hashem is miyuvsod of them. Generally, the service of Hashem is based on that. As says Musen Zayin Beita Kabim ut Nuas Anal to Beita Kabim Nuas Anal. That there must be both lines. Nitzavim on one hand, an Amida b'toike b'lit l'shinui, standing strong without any change. That's one tnuah, one movement. Vayeilech, also to go. To go from strength to strength, bis in an oifen, to the extent in such a way to keep on going. It says that the that ein la menucha, the tzaddikim, they don't have any rest. Ein la menucha. Shinut midid, they're always going. So standing strong and always going. That needs to be at all cases. Und das ist in alle drei Amudim, Kavim. This is in all three lines. From Torah, Avodah. Torah, you have the two kinds. Avodah or Tefillah, Korbanos or Tefillah has the two kinds. The two tnuas of standing and going. Or Gemilas Chasodim, an act of kindness, which is mitzvahs. Those are the three pillars that the world stand, the Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasodim. In each one of them, there has to be the both movement, strong and yet to move right along. And the Rebbe is going to explain, starting with Oizhei, the various different strong, which is in Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasodim, and the movement that needs to be, how everything has both parts in it, as the Rebbe starts to explain now in Oizhei. Oizhei. So first the Rebbe is going to show how in Torah we have both levels. We have the Nitzavim, we have the limitation, and we also have the growth, Vayeilech. And first, it's split between Torah Shebiksav, which every word, which it's limited, and Torah Shebal Peh is expansion. And the Rebbe will further explain within Torah Shebal Peh itself. So, hey, Torah. So in Torah, the two aspects. Torah is bechlolus vanander geteilt in zwei. Generally, the Torah is divided into two. Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebal Peh. You have the written Torah and the oral Torah. Even though that both were given to Moshe at Sinai, the Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebal Peh. Ubelshoin harambam bitchilas hagdamos lesefer hayad, to use the language of the Rambam in the beginning of his introduction to the Sefer Hayad, to the Sefer of Mishnah Torah. He says over there as follows: Kol ha-mitzvahs shenitnu loy leMoshe b'Sinai b'Pirushim. All the mitzvahs that were given to Moshe at Sinai, that means the Torah Shebiksav, whatever the Eibishter told me, gave him with the commentary. Torah, he quotes the pasuk, says, the Torah refers to the Torah Shebiksav, ha-Torah, v'ha-mitzvah zu pirusha. That's the interpretation of the Torah. So that's the Torah Shebal Peh. So you have the two Torahs, the Torah Shebiksav and Torah Mitzvah Purusha, Torah Shebal Peh. But they're both given, but is aber achiluk in zeira efen hanisina, there is a difference the way they were given. Torah Shebiksav is nitna ba'ofen modu demubal. The written Torah was given in a measured and limited way. In oisies und tevis, there's the letters, there's words exactly. In welche es ken nit sein kein shinui, it was given in a way exact, there can be no change. The letters, the words of the Torah. Mashenkin Torah Shebal Peh, as opposed to the oral Torah, Pirusha, which is the commentary, is gekumen al yidei hachachomim. That came through the sages. Welche haben ihr mefarish given? They explained the Torah Shebiksav. Durch the Yud Gimel or Lamed Beis, v'chulu, there's different levels. There's some 13 Yud Gimel Midas Shatoyre Nidreshes B'hem. There's 32 Midas Shatoyre Nidreshes B'hem. Those are measures in which you can expound the Torah K'yotze. So that came through the sages and through their expounding of the Torah. Von Avort oder Afilan Eis Torah, just from one word or even a letter of the Torah, Kumt an Arichis and Torah Shebal Peh, you get the whole lengthy expounding in the oral Torah. Und von the Arichis von die Tanoim, and then at length that the sages, the Tanoim, kommt noch a geresser Arichas, then even greater length and more articulated von the Amoraim. Those are the other generations, Amoraim, and so weiter. Bis der La Fosha, till we reach La Fosha means to increase. La Fosha law, to make addition in the Torah Shabbat Peh from a Talmid Vosik, from a studious student. Was das alles wert achelik von Torah Shabbat Peh? All this new insights, expounding of all these rabbis in the generations become part of the oral Torah. K'maymer Chazal, like the saying of our sages, that kol ma shetalmid vosik osud l'chadish hakel nit l'moshe misinai, that everything that a studious student is going to come up with a idea, a novelty, was already given to Moshe Sinai. So that means that it is part of Torah, it's part of the oral Torah. So how did that come about, though? It came about through the various different generations, the various different rabbis. So the presentation, how did we get Torah Shebiksav, came exactly in a way of exact. Torah Shabbat Peh came in a way of expounding over the generations. And that also makes a difference how we study it. This also, with this, is also tied the difference how we study. The Torah Shebiksav machtmen birchas ha-Torah b'kriyosam. For the written Torah, you will make the blessing of the Torah just by reading it. Even if you don't know what you're saying, you're just reading the words. So you said, but belimud Torah Shabbat Peh, when you learn the oral Torah, is if you don't know what you're saying, you cannot make a blessing for the Torah, because over there you have to understand what you're saying. Limudo is verbunden mit avonos haodam. To study the Torah Shabbat Peh is tied to understanding of the person. Welcher is verschieden. That's different. Everybody understands a little different by Beis Shammai or the Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai viewed in one way, in a stringent way. Beis Hillel was more lenient. They both received, the teachers of both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel received from the rabbis of Shmaya V'Avtalin, yet each one understood it in their way. They received it generation for generation to Moshe Rabbeinu. Torah from the Eibishter. He received the Torah from Hashem. Und in der Zeit ist doch zugekommen bei jedem von sie bechokma bina v'das ha-Torah. And they received it. And then, as time went on, they expounded, and each one got more chokma bina das in Torah. So there is a different way. That's why it's studied in a way of the human involvement, that understanding, as opposed to Torah Shebiksav is given by the Eibishter. You just say the words. That's already sufficient for making the Birchas HaTorah. And within Torah Shabbat Peh, there's also these two, the measure and to increase Vayeilech, the Nitzavim and Vayelech. As darf sein la foshelo b'chol yoma. Every day one is obligated to increase in the Torah Shabbat Peh, mechadish in Torah, to come up with new ideas in Torah. Aber es muss sein verbunden mit Yusad nor oiv the klolim the Yisoides from Torah. It must be based, the basis of the Chiddush needs to be based on the rules and the foundation of Torah. Und in vollster Einstimmung, it must fully conform with halacha, So you have to increase constantly, but yet you have to stay connected and you can't move away. These are the two aspects, stationary and going. But in Zay, the Yisodos Klolim V'Halachas, in those parts of Torah, the rules, the basis, and the rules and the halachas, is the Tzach Keshina. There's no change over there. There's no increase of that. It remains. This Torah will not be exchanged. So while they have to constantly increase on one hand, but it must be based on something which is stationary, which is permanent, which is all the time. And that's in the same statement we said before. K'mayim Razal Hanal, like the above statement of our sages of blessed memory, that kol ma shetablik vosid osid lechadesh hakol nit l'moshe misinai. That everything that the studious student is going to come up with a novelty was already given to Moshe Sinai. And here almost seems like a paradox. I mean, if it's new, how was it given to Moshe? But the klolim were given. The idea it manifests itself as something new, but the basis, that's the new based on the old. The L'chayre is those hastirim and obey. The statement of kol mashatam medvosik osu l'chadash, whatever is going to come up as already given Moshe Sinai seems to be contradictory within himself. L'chadash mean doch has the talmud totes mechadash. When we say to come up with a novelty, means that it's the student that came up with that. Besichos, he was mechadash besichos. What is the mitzvah? Und wie sagt man? So how could you say Ados is nit Moshe Sinai? Was given to Moshe Sinai. He came up with that. The students came up with it. Nor der biur bezev igret fil mo. What's the explanation? The basis, the Hiddush now is the students, but it's all built on halacha l'Moshe Sinai, on Moshe Rabbeinu nitn l'Moshe Sinai. Nor the biur bezev igret fil mo, as we spoke many times. The svara protis is a chiddush from the Talmud Vosik. This individual idea, that's a novelty of this studious student. Paskol ish mi Yisrael is mechuyev to learn out was steht mit Torah shebiksav mit Torah shebarseh. Besides that, there is an obligation for each one to learn everything that has been written in the written Torah and everything in the oral Torah. He's also obligated to come up with new ideas. Hein ba'halachas, both in halachas, hein ba'agodas, and in the expounding, hein b'niglei b'nister, revealed in nister. So this is all a quote from the Shulchan Aruch, not from the Geras HaKodesh, that a person needs to always come up and increase in Torah. But this is gebuit of the Klolim Velchamoshet Mekabel Sinai. That's built on the rules, on the principles that Moshe received from Sinai. Und der Chiddush besteht in them, and what is the novelty? So what's his Chiddush if it's already in Megala, the Svar of Halacha Protis from Minaklal? He reveals the idea and the specific halacha from the general rule. Halacha, as the halacha. So that is the Torah halacha, that is teaching Torah halacha, because it's based on the principle that already Moshe Rabbeinu has told us that this is the way we have to stick to. And then you come up in individual svara. If that doesn't take place, if a person does his own ideas, is there keposhut, then it's obvious, then he's opposite of Torah. And then, like the Mishnah says, he shows a face in the Torah which is not halacha. It's not according to halacha. What does the Mishnah say? Even though he knows how to learn Torah and he has good deeds, he has no portion of world to come. So here you see the two aspects. The Rebbe told it all. First of all, Torah Shabbat is stationary. It's given exactly, and Torah Shabbat Peh is over the generation. Also, the way we learn it, learning Torah is just the words. You can make a bracha, and Torah Shabbat Peh, you have to understand, because that's already, and there's different levels of understanding. That's each individual. And then there's in Torah Shabbat Peh, there is the novelty to come up and the basis that it has to be anchored on halacha. Otherwise, it's not considered, it doesn't help. Even he has Torah Ma'asim Tovim, he doesn't have Chelik Ma'abod. That's wrong. So there has to be the two Tnuas in each of these cases of stationary and to go. Then we have the same thing in Tefillah, both, B'Tefillah. Klolos HaTefillah is Atzivah L'chol Nefesh, U'B'chol Yom V'Yom. Generally, davening is a command for everybody, for an everyday and day. So basically, there is a set time and an obligation for every day for every person. So on one hand, it's a very stationary and it's across the board for everybody. But li'idach, on the other hand, is tefillah avodah shabbalei. Prayer is considered the service of the heart. Heart, each one davens with their own heart. But leiv kol echad ve'echad is b'shaveh arud l'kodesh baruch hu. So we're all open to Hashem in a general way, but there's individual feelings. Then there comes the details, how one feels in the heart. Was in the same Shabbos. Over there, their opinions are not straight. That's not everybody the same. It's differences. It's not stationary. Und der Fahr is prota kavona v'avedus halev seine verschieden. The details of the kavona and the service of the heart is different. There's also differences day to day. Not every day is the same as the other. So davening has the set davening. All daven the same nusach. We all have to do it. But then the emotional connection, first we have the general heart is everybody. But the specific of each one's feelings goes according to the individual. That's not stationary. That's everybody on their own. But derech zeh is that tefillah shebechol yom gufa is within the davening of every day itself. A yid is hoylech va'oyle b'meshech hayom. A yid keeps on going and going up during the day, keeps on growing higher. Ubefrat in zayin avodah b'hatefillah, and especially in his service and davening, he has to always keep on going higher and higher. Bedarga l'darga, go from step to step. What is he going in the davening higher, higher? B'kavonas halev, how much the intention of the heart, ubedvikusur b'Hashem, and his cleaving to Hashem. There's differences, so it keeps on growing. It's not the same. Vayeilech. Bizer kum zu der avodah von Shemona Esrei, until he comes to the service of the Amida, the 18 brachas, when steht ge'avta kamamori, there he stands like stationary, or there is like Nitzavim. So ditzvei in yonim. So you have the davening, which is the same nusach for everybody every day, and then you have the kavanah slave, which is different. And within every day's davening, you also have to increase constantly with your connection and your cleaving to Hashem. And then you have Shemona Esrei when you're stationary. Then you have the Tzvein Yonim Zanoich Do in Nusach HaTefillah. These two aspects also exist in the language of the davening itself. The Gimel Rishonos, the Gimel Achronos, the three first brachas of the Amida, and the last three brachas, they're equal in all the prayers. And also B'chol Yimei Hashanah, over every day of the year. Shabbos, Yom Tov, the first three brachas and the last three brachas are the same. Mashenkin, that's stationary. That's the Amida. Mashenkin, the brachas and tzoyis, but the middle brachas. There needs to be changes over there. Yimei Sachoil has, in the weekdays, we do Yud Beis and tzoyis. We have the 12 middle ones, the Bakoshes Tzrochav, in which we ask for our needs. Ubehem Gufa, Shinui Mizman Lizman. In the weekday itself, there's also a difference between time to time. There's other brachas of like by a fast day are different, but there's could be changes within the weekday itself. Then you have Shabbos, you only 7 brachas, Rosh Chodesh, and Rosh Chodesh. Then you have the davening, the Musaf, in addition to the Shachris, and then you have Yom Tov, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Chulu. So you have stationary things that are in every tefillah, then you have unique for this tefillah. Aber die Shinui Nusach Gufa kumen behemshich, but even these changes of languages, they all come as a continuation, as an aleph arbulun. They're all tied with the zelbe gimel, the shenev, the gimel acharonis. They still have that nitzavim, they have that stationary, all connected to the first three brachas and the last three brachas, which are equal by every one of the prayers. So you have the stationary, which we daven the same davening every day, and then the different kavona, and within the davening itself you grow, and then you also have in the davening, the nusach, you have the three opening and end brachas. They have the middle. There's changes over there, but all these changes come together with the stationary. So you have the 3 and 3 brachas stationary. Then you have the vayelech. This is in davening. So we had already in Torah explained, and now in tefillah. Now it's in mitzvahs, zayin b'mitzvahs. So you have the minyan ha-mitzvahs v'kiyumon is be'ofen. How much the number of the mitzvahs and how we perform them is in a way for you can't add and you can't take away. So all the mitzvahs need to be done exactly the way. The number is very important, exactly. And as the quoting from the Rambam, this is something very clear and very articulate in the Torah. That it's a mitzvah that it stands forever and ever, eternally. There's no change, there's nothing less, nothing added. So that is the stationary. The noch kum de zach von hider mitzvah. Then we talk about perfection of mitzvah. Was der Mensch darf mahader sein und maler sein? The person needs to be more perfect, needs to be careful and elevate in the kodesh, to go higher in kodesh, to do more, b'kima mitzvahs. You can do the mitzvahs, it just plain as much as just to fulfill your obligation, or you can do it in the best way. So doing better means not only you can do a little bit better, which would be kidavoy. You can do the mitzvah, and then you can do the way it should be done. But then you can go a higher level, nor mahadri, go even higher, to do it in a perfect way. Then mahadrim mina mahadrim, fine by Chanukah. So apidin, yeah, according to the halacha, the nimishras and the nikiyitzah, or beyond the level of the law. So these are all additional ways to do the mitzvahs. So on one hand, they're stationary, exact mitzvahs, but in the performance of the mitzvahs, you can go higher and higher. So you have the Nitzavim and the Vayeilech. Why is that? Because the mitzvahs are a connection. Why is these two movements, one stationary and one growth? Is because the mitzvahs are the service of Yid is set up in a way that you're connecting Hashem and the Yid. So from Hashem's perspective, everything is stationary, and the Yid's avodah is a change. The tam was the avodah for Yid is ausgestellt in the zwei Kavim. Why is the service of Yidden set up in these two lines? Wie bald Torah mitzvahs seinen gegeben geworden von dem Oberst und Sid. Since Torah mitzvahs were given from Hashem to the Yidden, seinen doing them beidin yanam kaviyach. So therefore, there are these two ideas here, so to speak. Das ist Torah mitzvahs shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On one hand, it's the Torah, the mitzvahs of Hashem. Also, is the avodah von Yidden, and then you have the service of the Yid who received the mitzvah. The Eibishter is the commander of the mitzvah. It's Hashem. So we have a Kodesh Baruch Hu on one hand. And you have the recipient who also supposed to do the mitzvahs, which is the Yidden, those who receive the Torah mitzvahs. So on those this expresses itself in these two kabim that we talked about before, in the stationary and in the movement. In the bilti shinu from Torah mitzvahs, in the non-change of Torah mitzvahs, is mudgesh, it's emphasized, the notion of Torah mitzvahs. The emphasis there is the one who gives the Torah and the one who commands the mitzvahs. The Eibishter Hashem. But is built in Mishnah, Hashem doesn't change. And the Vayeilech Hashem have not changed. So that's expressed in the line of consistent and stationary. Mitzadem was the reading from Torah mitzvahs is avoid v'nid. But on the other hand, because the service Torah mitzvahs is the service of a yid, believe without Torah v'kima mitzvahs, he has to study the Torah and observe the mitzvahs. For together, for non nivra, what defines a created being is was is abal shinoyim, is changes there. Und darf sein am Mahalach, and it needs to constantly be moving, going. Unlike those who are stationary, the angels are called. I give you, you're walking amongst those who are standing. Those are the angels that are standing. And the person, a created being, who is changing, needs to constantly grow. Is the avodah von Torah mitzvahs ausgestellt be'ofen. So therefore, the service of Torah mitzvahs is set up be'ofen as a sizdo the alicha mechayil choil b'avodas Hashem. That there is the growing from strength to strength in the service of Hashem, because that's a person. There's shinui v'aliyat midi, the change and the constantly elevation. Das is euch der tam. And this is also the reason was atem Nitzavim and Vayelech saying that nicht nur zwei Sedres was werden the Pamel. That's why atem Nitzavim and Vayelech are not just separate Sedres that sometimes get combined. Nor is eine be'etzem ein Sedre. But really they're one Sedre, Nitzavim and Vayelech. While the clothes are Indian from Avodas Havaya, because generally the idea of serving Hashem, it demands both. You need both for a service of Hashem. Nitzavim, they're built to shinui, to stand firm, the non-change. That's from because of the giver of the Torah, the command of Hashem. Und der Vers steht Nitzavim Loshen Nifal, it says Nitzavim. You're standing, meaning that you've been made that's Hashem, while the emissary Toikev because the true force, that strength and the non-change comes from above. Nitzavim, you are standing, the Eibishter gives you that koyach. Vayeilech, then that's the alichas odem mechayil choyil. That's the person going from strength to strength, from strength to strength. When the Faris are saying sedre, that's why it's really one sedre, because these are two points that we need in general in avodah sa'odom. But in yeder avodah from Vayeilech, ותנועה from shinui, because whenever you're growing, if there is change, muss there is seid sein. The foundation needs to be the chelik from Torah mitzvahs from Nitzavim. There needs to be that portion of Torah of standing still. It comes from Hashem, it didn't change. So you always, even while you're doing Vayeilech, you must also be Nitzavim. You have to realize that this is coming from Hashem, and there is no changes from there. So while you're growing from your perspective, because a nivra needs to grow, but it's all based upon the Nitzavim, on the firmness and the non-change of Hashem of the mitzvahs. Test v'yeshloimar ados euch der biur in Torah Hashem Tov. And now we can say this also explains the Baal Shem Tov's teaching as it pertains to the blessing of the Eibishter. In them Shabbos ha'achri in the Chodesh Elul, on the last Shabbos of the month of Elul, which is the bracha of the Eibishter. As the bracha is was koirim oz parshas atem nitzavim. The bracha is we read them the portion of nitzavim. When we get at Freer Sibbeis, that I've already discussed earlier Sibbeis, as them zayin faran zwei inyanim. There's two aspects over here. The etzem bracha is verbunden mit atem nitzavim. The essence of the bracha, that's the nitzavim, that's the bracha that the Eibishter blesses right then. And those was because then you have the other aspect that with that strength, with the power that the Eibishter gives on that Shabbos Mevarchim, you didn't go ahead and bless the rest of the 11th month of the year, 11th time, all the Shabbos Mevarchim. Is verbunden mit dem zweiten Teil von Parshat Nitzavim. That's connected with the second part of Atem Nitzavim with Vayeilech Moshe. The Rebbe explains the etzem bracha is berachos shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The bracha itself is God, is the Eibishter's blessing. Since a bracha was the Eibishter allein benched the Chodesh. It's a bracha that Hashem Himself blesses the month. Der Far was das a bracha was sichah von Geder and Ivroi. And This is a bracha, it comes from Hashem, it's higher than the definitions of the created being. And the far is the bracha verbunden with the matzav. That's why that bracha is associated with the condition von atem, sein that you are nitzavim, you're standing. The non-change, welcher is verbunden mit lifnei Hashem elikechem, ani Vayeilech nisi. That's tied that you are before Hashem your God. Atem nitzavim hayem lifnei Hashem elikechem. This is before Hashem, ani Vayeilech nisi. That's why that bracha comes milmayla atem nitzavim to stay firm, the non-change. But then noch werd die bracha b'meshach nimshach. Then the bracha gets extended in ha'ifun. Was bekoyach zeh Yisrael yevolkin es achedesh kadoshim, that they bless the months. That's the later on the second step. Der Far, wo das ist a bracha, was is hecher von Geder hanivroim. It's a blessing which is beyond the definitions of or the limitation of the nivroim. So that comes from the Eibishter, the such a bracha, the Nitzavim, the Eibishter, the Nitzavim, the Bechossus HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Far is the bracha verbunden with the matziv as atem seinem Nitzavim. That's why the condition, it's associated that you're standing strong. The ability shinui welcher is verbunden mit lifnei Vayeilech. That's the non-change, because that's tied, because you're standing before Hashem. Hashem is not changeable, and that's the bracha, that you're not changeable. Ani Vayeilech nisi, Hashem did not change. And then later on, ver die bracha nimshach in anaifen. Then this bracha extends in such a way, was bekoyach ze Yisrael bevarch meschadoshim. With that power, the Yidden bless the months. Was das is verbunden mit Avodas Yisrael. That for Yidden to bless, that is already the service of a Yid. And the Far is der Inyan Shach zu Vayeilech. So that has a connection to Vayeilech, to go, to move, avoid of a Yid. From the Tachtoy, the Yid. The avoid von Eden, halich mechoil choil. The avoid of Yid from go, that's Vayeilech, from strength to strength. Aber euch das is a hemshach hatel from Birchos Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, now this is also a continuation, however. It's not separate. You can't just do Vayeilech. It has to be connected to Nitzavim. It's part of the Birchos Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but you, in a way of Vayeilech mechail choil. Okay, now, like we said before, as Vayeilech is nit a besonder sedre, but Vayeilech is not a separate sedre, nor a tale from Parshas Atem Nitzavim. It's a portion of the Atem Nitzavim. It's part of the Eibishter's bracha, while the Vayeilech von Eden, the going of Eden, is meyused, is based on verbunden and tied mit Atem Nitzavim, with the Nesina Milamayla, with the standing from that you are standing, which is a gift, which is the bracha of the Eibishter. Aber vibald as bepoil ubigoli. But since, in actuality, in a revealed way, is dos vos Yisrael mevorchem es chadoshim, birchas avodas adam. The fact that the Yidden bench the month, that's the bracha and the service of the Yidden. The Yidden are doing that bracha. The riber is nit muchrach, that's why it's not necessary, doesn't have to be a dozal alamol zayin begolui in the Shabbos for Rosh Hashanah, that it should always be openly on the Shabbos for Rosh Hashanah. Ubemele leint men nit alamol parshas Vayeilech v'nei Rosh Hashanah. That's why we don't always read the portion of Vayeilech before Rosh Hashanah. Amol vertes gelein b'Shabbos l'achrei. That's why sometimes you can read in the Shabbos after, but close to Rosh Hashanah. So it has to be based on the Atem Nitzavim. But the fact is that it's still Avodas Adam. So therefore, it can be read Vayeilech after Rosh Hashanah. So that explains the two aspects of it. On one hand, it's part of Hazinu, and the koyach for it is always based on the Atem Nitzavim. But it's the Avodah of Yidden of Vayeilech, and therefore it's okay to have it read after Rosh Hashanah, after the last Shabbos. Yud. Das was man leint Parshas Atem Nitzavim dem Shabbos ha'achrim v'chodesh Elul. The fact that we read the portion of Atem Nitzavim on the last Shabbos v'chodesh Elul, is nicht nur als Achona zu Shana Haba B'chlal. It's not just as a preparation the coming year. So we're doing Atem Nitzavim. That's the bracha. Mitzadem was in dem Shabbos wird nimshach b'chosei shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because that's the Shabbos which we have the bracha of the Eibishter. So it's not just for the year, but it's for Rosh Hashanah itself. The Atem Nitzavim is a bracha for Rosh Hashanah, not just for the next year, but for Rosh Hashanah itself. Because the far is Parsha Zu, Nitzavim Koidem La'olam, Koidem Rosh Hashanah. We read it before Rosh Hashanah. Could have said we read this Parsha Koidem the New Year, Koidem the Shana Chadosha. No, it's Koidem Rosh Hashanah. That's the language over there, which means that it's connected to Rosh Hashanah. So based on this, these two Nitzavim that we read and Vayeilech and Nitzavim are together, they're part of Nitzavim, in the Rabbeida for Rosh Hashanah. That's why the Rebbe wants to associate now with Rabbeida Rosh Hashanah. There's also the two levels of Nitzavim Vayelech. But with Verstehen Behagdim, we'll understand it by introducing first. Bald as einen dort die zwei Kavim in Torah Mitzvahs Atzma. Since there is the two lines in Torah Mitzvah himself, is move on. It's understood. In other words, when the Eibishter gave us the Torah Mitzvahs itself, we have these two, the measured, the Nitzavim, and the Vayeilech. So it's understood as Frier seinen Zeido in dem Neusten Torah Mitzvah Mitzvahs Kaviyachon. That, so to speak, that also by the one who gives the Torah, the one who commands the mitzvah, so to speak, there's also these two levels sort of in there. There's a level, as the Rebbe says, Tainug and Rotzen. But those are the Tzvei Yonim, Tainug and Rotzen. This is the two levels of delight and the Rotzen, which are the source for the will of Hashem of Torah mitzvahs. The source is the Eibishter's Rotzen and Tainug. In Torah mitzvahs is Faran, those was says is Rotzen Elyon Baruch Hu. In Torah mitzvah we have, Hashem wants it. This is the desire of the supreme blessed be. And those was says is der Einige Elyon Baruch Hu. And also the extra level, it's also the delight in the Torah mitzvahs is the delight of the supreme Baruch Hu. The nachas ruach lefonei shamarte v'naser etzonim. The fact that the Eibishter is a pleasantness of spirit before me that I've commanded and my will was done, it gives the Eibishter pleasure. There's a tainug over there for mitzvahs. When the chilik zwischen sei. And what's the difference between tainug and rotzen? Bibald as dibra Torah koloshen b'nei odom. Since Torah uses the human experience in the terminology of the human, so we'll see the difference of tainug and rotzen by the person. As it manifests itself in the soul of man below. Especially, it's not just an example, it actually comes from there as the koiches and nefesh werden doch nicht tauschen von Lamaila. The powers of the soul, the level of tainug and rotzen come evolve from above. So this is therefore a good metaphor for the tainug rotzen here, for the tainug rotzen of Hashem. Made the koiches, both of these powers, sai tainug and sai rotzen, both the light and will, seine nit von the koiches hapnimim shel nefesh. They're not of the inner powers of the soul. Was jeder von sie is a koyach prati. Each one of them is a specific power. Nor from the koiches makifim, those are the surrounding powers. But those main koiches klolin, they are general powers. In welche the nefesh in ganzen gitzicharuis, in the entire soul. It's not a detail of the nefesh, but it's an expression of the entire soul. So what's the difference between the expression of the light and the expression of rotzen? The chilik zwischen sie is in oifen gila hanefesh abahem is the difference how the soul expresses itself in tainuk and how it expresses itself in rotzen. In welchen seine Faran zwei Fanen, there's two ways in this expression. Rotzen was is euch maloshen rotz. The rotzen will also comes from the language, running, is the ganze nefesh will, the entire soul will, sichah. All of it wants. It is drawing. Läuft zu azach was is chutz mimenu. It's running to something outside of it. It wants something outside. Timing is verkehrt. The light is the opposite. It's an inyan from menucha. It's an idea of relaxation. Und emeser tainug ubefrat shleimus von tainug, and the real delight and the completeness of tainug is when the Odom is when the person is delighting in his essence. Und das seien die zwei Inyonim von Nitzavim and Vayelech. Bilti shinui und shinui l'mayla kaviyachol. These not change, and so to speak, the change above. Oineg, the delight, the menucha, b'amidoso b'shleimuso, in the full and the complete b'atzmusei, is an inyan von heder hashinui. That's the idea of no change. Und rotzen, the ritza v'hatoya, an inyan shel tnuah v'shinui. Rotzen is the idea of running and movement. So that's rotzen and timing. So the Rebbe explains that, so to speak, the Eibishter gives the mitzvahs, just like in the mitzvah we have the two tenuas, also in the mitzvah mitzvahs we have the general theme of rotzen and timing. And rotzen and timing is expression of the soul, but it's different expression, either in a way of running outside or it's inside in himself. And this is the two in Yonim and Rosh Hashanah. The Rebbe is going to Yudalef. Gebald as Rosh Hashanah darf man öfton den tamlichun aleichem. We have to accomplish, make Hashem king over you, as the Eber says, unser Melech, that Hashem should become our king, is das verbunden mit der vet-nuah. Then that is associated with both of these movements. Frier darf man öfton the Mailo kaviyachol. First, we need to accomplish above, so to speak. The Eibishter wants to become a king, so we got to make him a king. We got to first give the Eibishter the pleasure of being a king. And then comes the desire for being a king. And therefore, what is expected, demanded of a Yid, was davon öfton dem tamlichuni, who need to accomplish this, making Hashem king. There are two kinds of movement. As we say the davening Rosh Hashanah, in kibonim, in kavodim, whether we are your sons or we are your servants. Was there pirush happening in them is the inner meaning is it's not if, but we needed both. As Rosh Hashanah, monazach, the inner meaning of monazach, there's actually demanding, and we have both types of services. Sayal zbonim, we're both children. Usayal sabonim, we're all servants. Vimen zokta vinu malkenu, a father and king. So we're servants. We're our king, and also our father. But the chiluk b'neim is the difference. What's the difference between a son and a servant? Ben is verbunden mit natzmus ovid. Ben is tied to the essence of the father. The father plays with and he delights in his son. Vider Magid is Meirich Bereish Svarov, as the Magid explains in the Magid Mezrich in the beginning of his Svarim in Likkutei Amorim and Torah. Eved is Mekayim Rotzen Ha'odon HaMelech, but on a servant he does the will. The light is a son. A servant does the will. Those are the Sichos in the Kriya from Parashat Nitzavim, and that's the connection of these two above mentioned in the reading of the Parashat Nitzavim. Nitzavim ubilti shinui, standing strong without a change. And on the other hand, Vayeilech shinui, to the Avodah of Rosh Hashanah, to the service of Rosh Hashanah. These two Avodah of Nitzavim and Vayelech. Dadurch der Avodah von Eden in the vet-nuah, because through the service of Yidden in these two movements, from im kibonim, im kavodim, in a way of tainug, and then in a way of rotzen, tunif Yidden da hamshochas hamelucha from the Eibishter. The Yidden accomplished to draw down the kingdom of the Eibishter, tamlichuni aleichem, in beide inyonim, in both aspects, from Oineg and Rotzen Canal, so that will be both Hashem's delight and Hashem's will, Tamlichuni Aleichem, in such a way, and that's why we have signed Nitzavim, the avodah of Bonim, level of Tainuk, and the avodah of Rotz, that's the avodah of Avodim. You base the Shoirish for the Beta Tnuas, and now is Einikuda. The root of both of these movements is really one point. Because the Farzain and Nitzavim and Vayelech Betzim ein Sedra Kanal. In essence, they're really one Sedra. They're bittel atzmi von Aid mitzad etzem nafshe. That essence, self-effacement of a Yid from the essence of his soul. Was his hecher side from the Rotzin or side from Tainuk, which is both higher than the will and side delight. Was mitzad them is Aid boicher kavyochol, that level of the essence of his soul, he chooses Kaviyachol in dem Ebersten. He chooses Hashem weil sie seinen etzem echad, because they are one essence. Nor bepoyel. So that's the reason why you choose and you want the Eberster is an essence term. Nor bepoyel kommt das heraus und drückt sich aus, but in actuality it comes out and expresses itself in zwei Tnuas from Bonim Avodim. There's two levels of the light of Tainug and Rotz. And das poil the Bechira Shamayla in Eden. And that impacts that Hashem above should choose Yidden, also Bechira. In the essence, not Rotz and a higher, Yivchar Lomas Nachlosen. He will choose us as our inheritance. Von Atzmus im Hus, wo Yidden sein Einsach Kavyoch mit Nebersten. Where Yidden are one thing, so to speak, with Hashem. Und das kommt in die zweite Nues, in welchem es wird nimshach tamlichun elechem. And then this expresses itself, comes from the Yifchak, but then it comes in the two Nues of tamlichun elechem, both in Tainuk and Rotz in the two sides. Shas man lein parshas atam nitzavim b'Shabbos shalifnei Rosh Hashanah. When we read on the Shabbos, the portion of atam nitzavim on the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, wird shoin take of gleich damalt aufgetan. So then, immediately then, it's accomplished that atem nitzavim kayamdim v'andim, that you're standing fast and you're standing hainu shazochim bedin, you merit judgment. The blessing of the Eiv Shabbos Avarchim, Chodesh Hashvi Shamuzba v'Mazbiya, it's satisfied, it is full, satisfied, and also satisfied the other Berev to the Kol Yisrael and Kol Hashanah for the whole year. So the Rebbe explained that also in the Rosh Hashanah, the Atem Nitzavim is a direct bracha for Rosh Hashanah itself, and the two levels of Tainig and Rotzen, and the level of Bechira, which is even higher, and it manifests itself, it comes down. This is all the bracha of the Eibishter for a whole year. This extends it to be written and sealed for a good Shana Tovim Sukkah. Each and every man and woman of the Yidden in good that is visible and revealed below literally mamish. This is Sichos Shabbos Parshat Nitzavim Vayelech Tovshin and Beis Vav Tishrei Yud Gimel Tishrei Tovshin Daled Mem.